The first time I realized my husband might be trying to destroy me, I was standing over an operating table with another woman's blood on my hands. The patient was crashing. Monitors screamed. 8 people in the trauma room were waiting for me to make a decision that could mean life or death. Then my phone vibrated. Normally, I never checked personal messages during surgery. This time, something made me glance at the screen. One photograph. No caption. No explanation. Just a blurry image of my husband walking into a downtown hotel with a woman whose face I couldn't quite make out. For 3 seconds, my entire world stopped. Then I put the phone away and saved a stranger's life. What I didn't know was that by the end of that night, my 15-year marriage would be over. My closest friendship would be in ruins, and I would uncover a betrayal so calculated that the affair itself would become the least shocking part of the story. Because the biggest mistake my husband ever made wasn't cheating on me. It was assuming that after 12 years as a trauma surgeon, I wouldn't know exactly how to remove a cancer from my life. 3 hours earlier, my biggest concern had been getting home in time for dinner. Funny how quickly a life can fall apart. My name is Dr. Emma Carter, and until that day, I thought I had everything. A career I loved, a husband I trusted, a home we'd built together, and a future that felt secure. Sure, my life wasn't perfect. Trauma surgery isn't a 9-to-5 job. People don't schedule emergencies. When someone arrives in the emergency room bleeding out after a car accident, they don't care whether it's Christmas morning or your wedding anniversary. They just need someone to save them. For 12 years, that someone had often been me. The work was exhausting. The hours were brutal. But I loved it. I loved knowing that when the worst day of someone's life arrived, I could make a difference. My husband, Jason, used to admire that about me. At least that's what I thought. When we first met, he couldn't stop talking about how proud he was of me. He told everyone he knew that his wife was a surgeon. He celebrated every promotion, every award, every achievement, or at least he pretended to. Looking back now, I can see the cracks. I just didn't want to. Over the past 2 years, his marketing company had been struggling. Clients were leaving. Contracts were disappearing. Meanwhile, my career was thriving. I became head trauma surgeon at the hospital. My income increased significantly, and every time someone congratulated me, I noticed Jason smiling a little less. At the time, I convinced myself it was stress. Everyone goes through difficult periods. Marriage is supposed to survive them, right? That morning had started with another argument, a small one. The kind couples have every day. I was rushing to leave for an early shift when Jason blocked the kitchen doorway. "You promised we'd have dinner tonight." I looked up from my coffee. "And we will." "You said that last week?" "I know. You said it the week before that too." I sighed. A familiar conversation. "Jason, I'm on call. Chris, I can't predict emergencies." His expression hardened. "You always have an excuse." "It's not an excuse. It's my job." "No, Emma, it's your priority." I stared at him. What is that supposed to mean? It means your patients always come first. I felt irritation rising. "We've been through this." "Have we?" He laughed bitterly, because from where I'm standing, I'm married to a hospital. I wanted to argue. I wanted to defend myself, but my pager went off. Another emergency. Another life waiting. So I kissed his cheek, grabbed my bag, and walked out the door. The last thing he said before I left was something I wouldn't fully understand until much later. "One day you're going to realize what all this has cost you." At the hospital, chaos took over. 3 surgeries, 2 critical trauma cases, an endless stream of emergencies. Hours disappeared. Then came the woman who would unknowingly change everything. A 30-year-old car accident victim, internal bleeding, multiple fractures, cardiac instability. We fought for nearly 4 hours to save her, and somehow we did. The relief in the operating room was immediate. Exhausted nurses smiled, residents exchanged congratulations. Another life saved. Another family spared unimaginable grief. I was removing my gloves when my phone vibrated. Unknown number, 1 incoming image. At first I assumed it was spam. Then I opened it. The photograph filled my screen. Jason, my husband, walking into a luxury downtown hotel, his hand resting against the back of a woman dressed in black. The image was grainy, the woman's face partially hidden, but the familiarity of her posture bothered me. Something about her seemed strangely recognizable. My pulse quickened. I immediately called Jason. Straight to voicemail. I called again. Nothing. Again. Nothing. A cold feeling settled into my stomach. I checked the timestamp. The photo had been taken less than 30 minutes earlier. I left the hospital without speaking to anyone. The drive home felt endless. Every red light seemed personal. Every minute stretched into 10. Maybe there was an explanation. Maybe it was a client. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe. Even then, I think I already knew. The house was dark when I arrived. Jason's car sat in the driveway. My hands shook as I unlocked the front door. The silence felt wrong, too heavy, too deliberate. Then I heard it. A laugh, a woman's laugh, coming from upstairs. For a moment, I couldn't move. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. Slowly, I climbed the staircase. One step, then another, then another. The bedroom door was partially open. Light spilled into the hallway. I heard Jason's voice, then hers. The voice of someone I'd trusted for nearly 20 years. Someone who had stood beside me at my wedding. Someone who called herself my sister, my best friend. Olivia Bennett. The world seemed to tilt beneath my feet. And then I pushed open the door. Everything I thought I knew about my life shattered in an instant. For a few seconds, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The room was frozen in complete silence. Jason sat on the edge of our bed. Olivia was beside him. Their clothes weren't exactly in place. Neither of them looked shocked that they'd been caught. What shocked me was how little guilt I saw on their faces. I had imagined this moment before. Not this exact scenario, of course. No wife wants to imagine walking in on her husband and her best friend. But everyone has fears. Everyone wonders what they'd do if the worst happened. I always assumed I'd scream, throw something, demand answers. Instead, I just stood there, staring, waiting for one of them to tell me this was some horrible misunderstanding. Neither did. Jason stood first. Emma? That single word sounded ridiculous coming from him, as though saying my name would somehow undo what I'd just seen. I looked at Olivia, her eyes filled with tears, not because she felt guilty, because she'd been caught. There was a difference. How long? I asked. Neither answered. How long? I repeated. Olivia looked down. Jason exhaled heavily. 8 months. The words hit harder than I expected. 8 months. 8 months of lies. 8 months of dinners together, holiday celebrations, birthday parties, family gatherings. 8 months of Olivia sitting across from me pretending to be my friend. 8 months of Jason kissing me goodbye before secretly running to her. I laughed. Not because anything was funny, because my brain couldn't process the alternative. 8 months? Jason rubbed his forehead. Emma, please, no. My voice came out calm, dangerously calm. You don't get to ask for anything right now. Olivia finally spoke. We never meant for this to happen. I looked directly at her. Then what exactly did you mean to happen? Her mouth opened, then closed. No answer, of course. There never is. Because affairs don't start with accidents. They start with choices. Thousands of them. Every text message, every lie, every secret meeting, every betrayal. A choice. Jason stepped forward, and then he said something that changed everything. Something that transformed him from a cheating husband into someone I barely recognized. This isn't entirely my fault. I stared at him. What? His shoulders straightened, almost as if he'd rehearsed this conversation. You haven't been present in this marriage for years. I actually thought I'd misheard him. You cheated on me. You abandoned us first. The room went silent. Olivia didn't even try to stop him, which meant she'd heard this speech before. Many times. You care more about strangers than your own family, Jason continued. You spend more time at the hospital than at home. You miss anniversaries. You miss birthdays. You miss everything. Each accusation landed like a slap, not because they were true, but because I'd sacrificed so much for us, for our future, for the life we built together. Every extra shift, every overnight call, every missed vacation. I thought I was doing it for our family. Apparently, Jason had spent years turning those sacrifices into resentment. Olivia wiped away a tear. Emma, you've changed. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My husband and best friend had betrayed me, and somehow they had convinced themselves I was the villain. I looked at both of them, really looked, and for the first time I saw what they'd become. Two selfish people desperate to justify their choices, nothing more. Without another word, I turned and walked out. Neither of them followed. Neither of them apologized. That hurt more than I expected. The next morning, I contacted a divorce attorney. By the end of the week, I moved into a luxury apartment near the hospital. The divorce process began immediately. I wanted everything handled quickly, cleanly, professionally. I didn't want revenge. Not then. I simply wanted out. A month later, I learned how naive that was. My attorney, Rebecca Hayes, called me one afternoon. "Emma, I need you to come in." Her tone sounded strange, serious, concerned. I arrived at her office after my shift. She slid several documents across her desk. "Have you reviewed your joint financial statements recently?" I frowned. "No." "Then I suggest you do." The numbers made no sense. At first, I thought I was reading them incorrectly. Large withdrawals, wire transfers, business payments, massive sums moving between accounts, month after month, year after year. My stomach tightened. "What am I looking at?" Rebecca folded her hands. "That's what we're trying to determine." The deeper we looked, the worse it became. Jason's struggling company hadn't survived on its own. Not even close. It had been surviving on my money, my earnings, my savings, my investments, money I never knowingly approved. The total amount made me physically ill. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. Gone. Transferred into various business accounts over several years. I stared at the paperwork. There has to be some mistake. Rebecca remained silent. That silence told me everything. Then she slid forward another document. I froze. My signature appeared at the bottom. Except it wasn't my signature. Not really. It looked like mine. But it wasn't. I knew every stroke of my own handwriting. And this wasn't it. "Rebecca." My voice barely worked. "What is this?" Her expression darkened. "We believe some authorization forms may have been falsified." The room suddenly felt too small, too warm, too difficult to breathe in. The affair, the lies, the betrayal, all of it suddenly seemed secondary. Because cheating destroys trust. But this destroyed lives. Rebecca slowly leaned forward. "Emma, I need you to listen carefully." I met her eyes. And for the first time since discovering the affair, I felt genuine fear. Not heartbreak. Not anger. Fear. Rebecca took a deep breath, then said the words that changed everything. "Emma, I don't think this is just a divorce case anymore." I stared at her. "What are you saying?" Her next sentence made my blood run cold. "I think your husband may have committed multiple felonies." For a long moment, I simply stared at Rebecca. Felonies. The word echoed in my head. Just weeks earlier, I thought I was dealing with a cheating husband and a backstabbing friend. Now I was learning the affair might be the smallest part of the betrayal. Rebecca immediately connected me with a forensic accountant. I authorized a full investigation. What they uncovered over the next month was horrifying. Jason hadn't just transferred money. He had built an entire web of lies. There were forged signatures, hidden business debts, secret loans taken out using my income and professional reputation. Money moved through accounts I had never seen before. And the worst part? Olivia knew. Emails recovered from Jason's company showed they had discussed everything. The affair, the financial problems, even ways to keep me from discovering the missing money. While I was working 16-hour shifts, saving lives, they were using my trust as a shield. I wanted to confront them. I wanted to expose everything immediately. But Rebecca stopped me. "Let them think you're still focused on the divorce." So I stayed silent. Meanwhile, Jason and Olivia went public with their relationship. They told friends I had neglected my marriage, that my career mattered more than my family. Some people believed them. Others kept their distance. Neither mattered. Because every day, more evidence landed on Rebecca's desk. Then one afternoon, the forensic accountant called. His voice sounded different. Excited. Concerned. "Dr. Carter, I think we've found something big." My stomach tightened. "What is it?" "There is another account." "Another account?" "Yes. Hidden through multiple shell companies." I gripped the phone tighter. "How much money are we talking about?" The accountant paused. Then he gave me a number so large I thought I had misheard him. Not millions. Jason hadn't just been stealing from me. He'd been hiding an entire fortune. And suddenly, the divorce wasn't the biggest problem he was facing anymore. The hidden account changed everything. For months, Rebecca and the forensic team quietly followed the money trail. Every transfer led to another secret. Every secret led to another lie. By the time they finished, the evidence filled multiple boxes. Jason had been so confident, so certain he would walk away with half of my assets. Meanwhile, Olivia was already planning their future together. Neither of them had any idea what was waiting for them. The day of the divorce hearing finally arrived. Jason walked into the courtroom looking relaxed, almost smug. When his attorney argued that I had neglected the marriage and owed Jason a significant settlement, I remained silent. Then Rebecca stood. One by one, she presented the evidence. The forged signatures, the hidden transfers, the secret accounts, the shell companies. The courtroom grew quieter with every document. Jason's confidence disappeared. His attorney looked stunned. Olivia, sitting behind him, slowly went pale. For the first time, she was seeing evidence Jason had never shown her. Then came the hidden account, the one containing millions. The judge studied the documents for several minutes. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. Finally, the judge looked directly at Jason. What I am seeing here is deeply concerning. Jason's face had turned completely white. A few moments later, the judge issued an order for an immediate financial investigation. The hearing was suspended. As security escorted everyone out, Olivia confronted Jason in the hallway. "What else have you lied about?" Jason didn't answer, and from the look on Olivia's face, she already knew the truth. Their perfect future had just fallen apart. But for Jason, the worst was still coming. The financial investigation destroyed what remained of Jason's life. Within weeks, investors pulled out of his company. Business partners cut ties with him. Several lawsuits followed. The man who had once blamed me for everything suddenly found himself with nobody left to blame. Olivia stayed for a while, long enough to learn the full truth, long enough to realize that Jason hadn't just lied to me. He had lied to her too. 3 months later, she left. Without a goodbye, without looking back. I heard about it from a mutual friend. Apparently, Jason was shocked. The irony wasn't lost on me. The man who had betrayed everyone in his life couldn't understand why people kept abandoning him. The divorce was finalized shortly afterward. I kept my assets, my savings, my future. Most importantly, I kept my peace. For the first time in years, I wasn't carrying the weight of someone else's secrets. 6 months later, Jason called. I almost didn't answer. Almost. "Emma," he said quietly. There was no confidence left in his voice. No arrogance, no excuses, just regret. "I made the biggest mistake of my life." I said nothing. I wish I could take it all back. Still nothing. After a long silence, he asked the question I think he had been building toward from the moment everything collapsed. "Do you think you'll ever forgive me?" I looked out the window of my apartment at the city lights below. At the life I had rebuilt, at the future waiting ahead of me. And for the first time, I realized I felt absolutely nothing for him. No anger, no hatred, no love, nothing. Goodbye, Jason. Then I hung up. A year later, I was invited to a charity fundraiser. While speaking with guests, a woman approached me with tears in her eyes. At first, I didn't recognize her. Then she smiled, and I remembered. She was the patient whose life I had saved on the night everything fell apart. The woman from the operating table. The woman whose surgery had been interrupted by that photograph. She hugged me and said something I'll never forget. "You saved my life that night." I smiled, because what she didn't know was that, in a strange way, she had helped save mine too. The night I discovered my husband's betrayal felt like the end of everything. Instead, it became the beginning of freedom, the beginning of peace, the beginning of a life built on truth instead of lies. And if there's one thing I've learned as a trauma surgeon, it's this. Sometimes the only way to save a life is to cut away what's killing it. Jason thought he was destroying me. In the end, he only removed the things that were holding me back.